So last year was a really bad year for ticks. Seems like this year the same thing is happening. And every time I turn around, there's a horse being diagnosed with Lyme. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the symptoms so that you know what to look for. It can be one of the more difficult diseases to catch what's going on, like when it first happens. It seems that a lot of times it gets misdiagnosed until it's in the later stages when everything else has failed. So we're going to go over the top symptoms of Lyme in hopes that it helps you catch it sooner in your own horse. So Lyme can be pretty insidious and sometimes really hard to recognize based on symptoms alone in your horse. And that's because the bacteria Borrelia that causes Lyme doesn't just stay in one place. It doesn't just affect one tissue. It actually moves. So to move through connective tissue, through joints, and sometimes through the nervous system as well. And so it tends to persist in these areas and then trigger inflammation instead of just causing one problem. And so I want to talk today a little bit about the symptoms because they're so varied. And this is going to be part one, and because there's just too many symptoms to go over in one video. So the first one is shifting lameness, because the Borrelia doesn't just localize in one area, so it kind of feels like it's moving around, and that's triggering this intermittent inflammation, which also makes it seem like it's moving around in the horse because it's flaring up in different places and the lameness isn't staying consistent. The second one, weirdly enough, is back soreness or muscle pain. And that's because there can be this combination of inflammation and also fascial involvement. And so the tissues then get really irritated, they get inflamed, and then the horse guards themselves and they brace. And this happens especially through the top line. So this is why it looks like the horse actually has back pain. The third one is behavioral changes. So they can become irritable, they can have this chronic inflammation that affects the nervous system and causes pain. And so they have this low-grade discomfort everywhere, and then their tolerance just really drops. And they're like, just feel like they're being difficult or just feel like they're uncomfortable. And it's just because of this low-grade inflammation that's kind of throughout the body. The fourth one is performance decline, because you've got this system-wide problem going on. So you've got inflammation, you've got the neuromuscular system affected, you've got coordination affected, sometimes the mitochondria are affected and you get energy problems. And so they fatigue faster and you feel like they can't really organize themselves really well. And so then you have symptoms that feel kind of vague like that. And another vague symptom is number 5, which is just general stiffness, especially when they're starting out. And basically they're just inflamed. Their joints are inflamed, their connective tissue is inflamed. And while movement might help a little bit, the underlying irritation is just always still there. That's the reason why Lyme can be so hard to diagnose, is because they're just sort of general symptoms that could point to a lot of different problems. Sometimes you don't really understand what's going on until it's been going on for a while. So of course, that's just the first 5 symptoms. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about symptoms 6 through 10. So I'll see you then.